Welcome to another episode of Ask the Zamboni Experts. I'm your host, Doug Peters, and along with me today from the Zamboni Company up in Brantford, Ontario, is Marty Elliott. Today, we're going to be having a chat with Doug Palazzari, the Executive Director of the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame in Eveleth, Minnesota. Welcome, Doug. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I am excellent, sir. I'm very honored to be able to spend some time with you chatting about the Hockey Hall of Fame as well as your career in hockey. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Eveleth, Minnesota?
Well, this was a really great place for a hockey player to grow up because we have long winters and you get to play outside. You could bring your skates to school, play during the day. The winters are long, so we had ice outdoors for about 4 or 5 months a year. Eveleth is a unique town with a great hockey history, so we growing up here was really fun.
Yeah, as a former Minnesotan, I can attest to how cold the winters are, and I know the further north you get, the colder they are. So it's there's been a lot of great hockey players that have come out of Eveleth. Along with yourself, there's a gentleman named John Mayasich. He's part of the U.S. Hockey Hall. Can you tell us a little bit about any interactions you've had with Mr. Mayasich?
Well, John's living up here now. He has since for quite a while. He's like Mr. Hockey in Eveleth. He's a great supporter of the museum and everything Minnesota hockey for sure. He's just a real class gentleman. Certainly was one of America's great hockey players too. His record speaks for that. As a college player, as a pro player, and as an Olympian. I know his family very well. His brother, he has a twin brother. You probably didn't know that, but
did not know that.
Jim Mayasich. He was a good athlete. He was a good baseball player and a basketball player, but he also was a teacher. I had him in grade school actually, and no, but John is kind of laying low right now with the COVID thing, so I haven't seen him in about a month, which is unusual. But like I said, he is just such a great supporter of everything Eveleth. He's just a magnificent guy.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting him last fall for the first time in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was down to be a part of the opening game ceremonies for Stan Hubbard III's team down in Albuquerque. And I was in town for a wedding. My wife grew up just outside of Albuquerque, and it was a pleasure. He's a very, very, he's a gentleman is the word I guess I would use to describe him. And we're looking very much forward to having him and Dick Meredith, who's a friend of my father's, on a podcast in the future to talk about the 1956 and 60 Olympic teams from the USA.
Yeah, I know Dick as well. That was a great group they had in 60 and 56 too. They're great guys. But John, I know he's real tight with the Hubbards. They've been great friends for decades, and John gets together with them quite frequently. I know that organization he started, the junior team down in Albuquerque, had a very successful year, and I hope they can continue that there.
Yeah, Stanley invested in a rink down there, and he's done wonders. And as I've told him and expressed in the industry, that facility wouldn't be there if it wasn't for his love of hockey, like I think he had handed down from his father. Doug, can you tell us a little bit how you found your way into your role at the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame?
Well, that's, really, I was a college player from Eveleth when the hall opened in 73. So I've been familiar with everything to do with the hall over the years. And especially with my time with USA Hockey, we always had interactions with the museum and the Hall of Fame. For me, though, I got to the point, I just, they were having little struggles here, and I told a friend of mine up here, I said, well, if the executive director job ever gets open, give me a call. I'd be interested in looking into that. And that's what happened eventually. And I'm really glad that it turned out, because this has been a lot of fun for me. This is my 10th year here. quite a change moving, from Colorado Springs back up to the range in terms of climate and so forth. But it's really nice to be in a smaller community and really enjoying it.
How did you escape the University of Minnesota with your stats is what I want to know, because all the top players back in that time frame pretty much had a fence around them to keep them in Minnesota and to play for the U. How did you escape and end up at Colorado College?
Well, that's interesting because I would have, they offered me a half a scholarship, and I had a full scholarship to Notre Dame and a full scholarship to Colorado College, and I had an appointment to the Air Force Academy. I had options, but I think if they had offered me a full scholarship, I would have gone there. But it would have been for all the wrong reasons. I'm glad they didn't, because CC was a perfect place for me. Turned out such an excellent school, and so is the University of Minnesota. I mean, there's 8 kids in my family, and I think 6 of them are graduates from the university. So, nothing against that. But for me, and actually it was another player here in Virginia, you may know, Steve Sertich, who played on the 76 Olympic team. We were seniors. He was in Virginia, and we took our recruiting trip out to Colorado Springs, and the coach was John Matchis. I'm sure you're aware of a hockey great in his day at the University of Michigan and 56 Olympic team. And we had known him all our lives. So for us, they put us up in the Broadmoor. You're sitting there in the mountains. I left here, it was snow, and it was 70 degrees out there. And we're on the plane on the way back. I said to Luber, I said, we're going to CC, aren't we? He said, yep. And that's what happened.
Well, I've been out there. I've been lucky enough to go visit, and it is a spectacular setting for that, and a lot of history with the Springs, with the U.S. Olympic hockey teams, and with USA Hockey offices being headquartered out there. Would you like to talk a little bit about your time as the executive director at USA Hockey?
But first, get back to the Broadmoor there. Thayer Tutt, the gentleman that ran that business, he was so instrumental in getting the international teams over here to play. He was the first guy that really started to bring teams in. He'd bring them to that rink at the Broadmoor, and they'd play college teams, and he'd bring the Russians and the Czechs. He was really instrumental in growing the game internationally. But as far as my time at USA Hockey, those were wonderful years. I had 14 years there, and I started out as a youth director, and I got to meet. I worked with the youth council at USA Hockey and met all the different people and many affiliates around the country. So I got to meet everyone in hockey, and it's just a great organization that people may not realize is basically run by the volunteers all over our country who donate their time and effort to help the youth hockey programs grow and succeed. So in that respect, I moved up a little bit. I also supervised the coaching and officiating program for a few years. And then the last 5 years there, I was the executive director, and that was an interesting challenge and fun in no ways. I'm kind of proud of the fact that while we was executive director, we won our first World Junior tournament, and we won our first Women's World tournament, and we had 2 silver medals in Salt Lake. It was great. Really a fun time for me. I worked with so many wonderful people at USA Hockey in the national office and all the volunteers around the country, and I had a chance to travel internationally and meet people from all the different countries that are involved in hockey, and made friendships through that, and we learned a lot from each other. So in those respects, those were very good years.
Did you get to spend a fair amount of time with Walter Bush while you were with USA Hockey?
Oh yes, Walter was chairman. He's the one that hired me. So, Walter's one of the finest gentlemen I think I've ever met. You know, what he did for American hockey is, and the time he put in, the effort he made. And I think one of the things he'll go down even the most, I mean, there wouldn't be a women's Olympic sport in ice hockey if it weren't for Walter Bush. And he really spearheaded that whole thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that because you beat me to the punch. That was something that I was going to say. I was lucky enough to spend some time with Walter when I was a kid. He was the president and involved with the ownership group of the North Stars, and my dad worked for the North Stars. And I joked that my father used to service Walter's boat. And when Walter passed away, my father passed away a few days later. And I was able to I was in Minnesota. I was able to go to my father's funeral and Walter's funeral 2 days later. And I said, Walter probably needed somebody to service his boat. And he called for my dad to come to come up and take care of it for him.
Hey, I've been on that boat. You know, we used to have executive committee meetings down in Florida and Naples, and he had the beautiful boat. We'd always go on a cruise every year. It was really fun. He loved that boat.
He was a very kind gentleman. I reached out to him when my dad was ill, and Walter was kind enough to reconnect with my father and spend some time going down memory lane with stories about the North Stars and such. Can you tell us a little bit, Doug, why is the hall in Eveleth?
Well, you know, really, it's because of the huge history here, and you know, Eveleth is really one of the birthplaces for ice hockey in our country. There's no doubt about that. They've had hockey here since the late 1800s. In fact, they had their first indoor rink built in 1919. They had two sheets. The bottom floor was a curling rink, and then above that they had a hockey rink. And you know, they over the years, you know, just 2 years later, they built a brand new 3,000 seat Eveleth Hippodrome. I'm sure you're aware of that building. That's
yes, I am. I've been in that facility a few times.
Still going.
It is.
It's like a shrine in itself. But you know, they had a basically a pro team here in the early 20s that played in the league with Cleveland, Pittsburgh, St. Paul, Duluth, and Milwaukee. You know, they had a lot of Canadian players there during those days too. They brought in a few ringers, but hockey grew. It was big for the miners up here, and this was a melting pot of different nationalities, and it brought everyone together. Was the hockey, and they developed some just really great players that went on and did fabulous things. If you look at, even in the 30s, you know, they had what I think is 147 players that were playing within the college, minor league, pro, NHL around the country, everywhere from California to Boston, from this little community in northern Minnesota. And there was a time in the National Hockey League, like the first American goalie to win the Stanley Cup is Mike Caracas, Eveleth boy. Of course, you had Frank Brinsick with the Boston Bruins, who won the Vezina, plus the most valuable. We got those here in the hall actually, and you know, they called him Mr. Zero because of the many shutouts he had, and recognized as one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League ever. And then, of course, the goalie that holds the most saves in a regular season game is Sam Lapresti, another Eveleth guy, 80 saves. Lost 3-2 to Boston, and of course Brimsick was in the net on the other side. So you had a time when there were 6 teams in the league, and 3 of the goalies were from Eveleth. You know, that says something in itself. But and then you start in the 40s. If they would have started a high school tournament before 45, Eveleth would have a lot more of them. But they did start in 45, and I think they won 5 of the first 7. They had a junior college team here. It's 28 and 29ers, top college team in the country. ahead of Yale, Minnesota, Clarkson. The junior college was that good.
That's awesome. Well, and there was another goalie that came out of up there, Willard Eichla, correct?
Yes, he played in the 56 team. Actually, the 56 team, the coach was John Mariucci from Melville. You had Matchus, Mayasich, and Willard Eichla were on the team. 3 other guys from Melville. So well represented in 56. Willard, of course, went on to be a great coach there at Edina High School with I don't know how many wins he racked up there. You know, and just a class. All of those guys are just class guys. You know, and all evolutions.
Yeah, he turned into a dreaded cake eater. You know, that was the hard part.
I know. Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it? You want to hear a cake eater story?
I certainly do.
Well, when I was in Bantams, we won the state tournament in 8th grade, and the national tournament was being Lake Placid. Well, we really didn't think we were going to go because it was too expensive. We didn't have any really way to get out. It's a long way from Evelyn. But we got home from the weekend, the state tournament, and our recreational director got a call from Edina and it said, well, we know you guys can't afford to go, so we got the plane fueled up and we're going to take your place. And our recreation director got so mad that he said, no, never mind, we're going to go. so we sold candy and we raised money, and we bust from Evelyn to Lake Placid 36 hours one way, no stopping. We stopped at every Howard Johnson's around the way. So we went out to Lake Placid and played a national tournament. It was great.
Well, it's funny because I've had a couple other people on podcasts and got talking. I think one of them was Henry Boucher, which we'll get into a little bit later. But we talked about Edina and growing up in South Minneapolis. I always say my claim to fame in hockey is that I got to skate against Mike Ramsey, who played on the 1980 Olympic team that won the gold medal at Lake Placid. Greatest sporting event ever in my lifetime. As I've got my compadre shaking his head right now, and he's got a question that I'm going to throw over to him. But it was something with Edina. You hated them growing up, but then when you got older in the cities, you wanted to live in Edina because the schools were a little bit better and the taxes were a little bit lower and all. And they ended up beating Roosevelt that year when I was a sophomore in the state high school hockey tournament. They scored a goal in like the last minute or minute and a half of the game to break our hearts as fans of the team. But at least the goal was scored with time left on the clock. And again, that'll be a lead into another question later. But Marty wants to throw something at you in regards to the 80 saves. Might that have something to do with the 80 Olympic team, Marty?
Oh, Doug. Mr. Palazzari, thanks for allowing me to share and talk to you and listen to your stories. I have to ask the question, the individual that you referred to that still holds the record for 80 saves, was that in just 3 periods or was there overtime involved?
Yeah, in a regulation game. Yeah, the record's for a regulation game. Yeah.
Well, good wrench tire doesn't see that much rubber in a day.
No, that's hard. And lose a game 3-2, isn't that awful?
Wow, that's amazing. No, I was just,
and Sam, you would have enjoyed meeting Sam Lapresti. He was really a tremendous guy too.
I definitely recognize the name, but no, I never had the opportunity.
Well, he had a son that played in the National Hockey League too, Peter.
Oh, Peter. Yep, I do recognize. Yeah,
he played for the North Stars and a few other teams. Yeah.
There you go. I'll send it back to you, Mr. Peters. You got a good session going here.
Thank you very much, Marty. Speaking of finances, you talked about what it was like having to sell candy to get your Bantam team all the way out to Lake Placid. How is the hall and the museum financed, Doug?
Well, here's how it goes. They've had issues with finances in the past, but currently we're doing very well, and we're happy for that. Of course, we have admission here to the hall, and we have a gift shop, That's our main source at the door. We do get some help from the state of Minnesota through the Minnesota Historical Society, and that's a big help to us. Otherwise, we have a college Hall of Fame game that's been very popular and is very beneficial for us as well. We do fundraising, of course, and we have our annual golf classic, which has become very successful and a lot of fun, to say the least. USA Hockey has been a partner of ours, and through their foundation have helped the museum, as well as the Minnesota Wild have been helpful in a number of ways. So we managed to find people that the city of Eveleth, of course, is also very much in the mix of. They own the building, actually. We rented from them for $1 a year. So I'm happy to say now that this is probably the best position financially that they've ever been in, and we just keep working slowly to make the museum better and better. And our guests that come here really enjoy it. So the funding is always an issue. You're always trying to make enough because you want to make more improvements and you want to do more things to bring attention to the hall. But I have just a tremendous board of directors here that I work with, and I think that's the key. I'd love to tell you, some of the guys we have that are working with us if we have time here. Our chairman of the board is.
Please do.
He's a Minnesota State Senator, Dave Tomasoni, and he's a hockey player. He played on a national championship team at the University of Denver. He's from Chisholm originally, here in Minnesota. He played for after college, he went and played in Italy for a bunch of years. Had a good career over there. In fact, he played for the Italian national team in the Olympics in '84. So he's got. And then Cal Casalter, our president, is a former mayor of Eveleth. He was also one of the captains of the 1974 Gopher national championship team. He was a great player in his own right. We've got another hockey player, Bob Pizzelli from Eveleth here. He was a captain of the University of Denver national championship team in '76. So we got Buzzy Schneider from the '80 Olympic team. Lefty Kern from the '72 Olympic team. We've got Karen Housley, Phil's wife, who is a Minnesota's representative, senator as well, who sits on our board and is big help. There's others here, like I'm sure you probably know Doug Johnson, who used to be the former president and publisher with Let's Play Hockey. He's done great for us. Matt Maka, the president of the Wild, been a huge help and a great board member. So Mike Snee, he's the head of the College Hockey Inc. We did Katie Million now, who's the director of women's hockey at USA Hockey. So we've got a really interesting group. Another Jim Matic, who is a retired Cargill vice president, been a big help. We got and then I got my idea guy, Chaz Dam, a local guy who's an artist and a real talented visionary, I call him. So that's and then I have another former mayor here, Mike Lenich, who's been involved with the hall for forever, and Mitch Grunfeld is a local lawyer to take care of our legal things. So we got a really good group. They're all hands on. They all help. They're all much appreciated for sure.
Well, that's great. We have a rule out at our office that if your last name ends in a vowel, you're likely Italian. Might that hold true with you and Mr. Tomasoni?
Tomasoni, Pizzelli, Palazzari, even Casalter's part Italian. I mean, we got our group here. You gotta have a few Dagos in the mix,
There you go. That's good. And it's been great for me. I've enjoyed my time with the Zamboni family, and I love to hear the stories. And it's nice to see the people that you've got associated with the hall that are putting back to that that location. And great names. I've dealt with many of them. I had the pleasure of meeting Katie and Buzzy Schneider. That was great for me to get the chance to sit and have lunch when they were inducted into the ISI Hall of Fame. And what a treat for me as a kid watching those guys beat the Russians in Lake Placid, to be able to sit and lunch with Buzzy Schneider and Harrington and Dave Christian, who
yeah, they're all great guys.
Yeah.
Buzzy's really been good to us here at the Hall. He's been a real big help. You know, he's well, I've known him since high school. So I remember when he was a Babbitt Rabbit. You know where the Babbitt Rabbit is, right?
Oh, you bet. The town of Babbitt. And I think that's a acceptable name for a team nowadays. The Rabbits. I don't think that'll offend anybody. One of the things that we wonder about is, do people often try to reach out and donate items to the Hall that they feel are part of U.S. hockey history? And before I let you answer that, I'm gonna let you know that I have the puck from the 2002 Olympic Games in Lake Placid that was only able to be won by the Canadians because they put a loonie in the ice, which tilted the ice in their favor. And it was the goal that was scored by Mike Modano to beat the Russians. They didn't change the pucks at that point in time, and it ended up coming up into the vomitory area where the machines came out, and I happened to catch it and was told to put it in my pocket and don't listen to anybody and to take it home, and it's sitting in my closet. Is that something that when
let me ask you a question
comes,
here?
Sure.
You said like, but in 2002 it was in Salt Lake.
Salt Lake. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Error on my part. But it's from the game when they beat Russia to go to the gold medal game against Canada.
Yeah. What a great game that was, wasn't it?
It was.
That Russian game. That was one of the best games I've ever seen, I think.
It was something where when they came off the ice, I was able to stand there, and it was a parade of the players of the U.S. team, and one after another went by me, and they all looked like every ounce of effort that they had was laid out on the ice. And I remember, and I'll never forget it, Jeremy Roenick coming by, and I got to high five him, and it was like, whoa. And I think that those guys finally, I think they realized what kind of a deal it was in 2002 to try to compare back to 1980 and what that team went through when they beat the Russians, because it was still a big deal at that time. But
I have to step in here, gentlemen, just to protect the Canadian flag here, boys. So, Doug, you refer to the loonie in the ice in Salt Lake City in 2002. We don't carry pennies in our pockets anymore. Just to throw that out to you folks in America.
Well, I would have dug up that loonie.
I think a loonie is about worth a penny up there in Canada, isn't it, Marty?
Actually, yep, you got a point.
The Canadians are always so good. I mean, my career, I've made so many friends, Canadian friends, teammates, and others. Nobody loves hockey more than Canadians. I'm well aware of that. And they got their way. I love the way they operate. They're cool. But they're more fun to beat when they can beat them once in a while. It's good.
But we do know who scored that winning goal in the finals, right? Yes, against the Americans. Doug, do you remember who scored that goal?
Oh yeah.
I know. I don't. All I remember is Hall hitting the post with about 4 minutes left. Could have tied it. Remember that?
Yes, it could have went the other way for sure. I do recall that. Yep.
Yeah. But Herbie did a great job with that team. I think our team had a great tournament. It was a tough final. I think we were better in Canada through most of the tournament, but that night Canada was damn good.
Yeah, that was before the Salt Lake Olympics. The 1980 team and Herb Brooks came out to the convention center at Los Angeles, and they had an ice rink built in the convention center that people could skate at, and that team was together for the first time, and I think that was the last time that I got to see and talk to Herbie before he passed away. And I was lucky enough as a kid to have Herb as a hockey instructor at Ken Yackel's hockey camp down in Shattuck in Faribault, Minnesota, and was lucky enough to know Herb well enough. Although I think it was more, Herb was such a wonderful person and had the ability to remember everybody that he met, that he was just an incredible man that way, and a great psychologist in knowing how to get the best out of every member of the team that he put together.
Well, I actually had breakfast with Herbie the day that he had his accident. He was up here for a golf tournament for the Hall of Fame, actually. And I was here with USA Hockey Ties, and we were talking about, Herbie had some plans he wanted to discuss about, helping out American hockey. And so we had met for breakfast that day, and it was just a sad day for American hockey, for sure.
Yeah, it was a truly sad day. And that accident where he was in his vehicle and was thrown out took place right down the road from where my father lived. And whenever I'd come back and I'd drive up, it was kind of like I'd take a pause as I was driving by there. And I was in town, brought my daughters, usually came back each summer and would bring my daughters to visit with family for a week, and was in town for his funeral and went to the funeral with my father. And anybody and everybody who was hockey was at that funeral. It was a packed house at the church over in St. Paul. Unbelievable. Yeah. And truly sad moment. He was a great man, taken from us too early, but I think people recognize just what kind of a talent that gentleman was. So
no question. Yeah.
So can you touch a little bit about the Olympic teams? I know Marty loves to hear about the 80 team, but there's also the 56 and 60 teams where I've had the pleasure of meeting many of those guys that were out east. Dick Rodenheiser, Jack Crane, the Cleary brothers, and Dick Meredith, who's like I say, was a friend of my father's, and still trying to get him on a podcast. But there was also a team that Henry Boucher played on, the 72 team. Maybe fill us in a little bit about some of the things that you guys have at the Hall from those medal-winning teams that the USA sported.
Well, the 72 team with Henry, I played against that team, actually. They came out and played Colorado College in the exhibition as they were training for the Olympics. So, and then I had the fortune about 2 years later, or three, the next year, 73, and I played on the World Championships with Team USA, and there were about 6 or 7 guys from that 72 team that I played with as teammates in the World Championships. So I'm very familiar with those guys. That team had silver medal, which was pretty impressive. I can't remember what the reason was. I don't think Canada played in the Olympics that year, actually. If maybe Marty will sit on that for some reason. I don't think Canada participated, but they had a very
56, Doug?
No, I'm talking 72 team in Sapporo.
I'm just trying to think why they wouldn't have participated. That excuse me, I'll be right back. I'm going to be right back, gentlemen. I got to
do that. I'm just thinking that, but I might be wrong. But
no, let me check it out. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Yeah, the 72 team was it was not expected to win a medal, and Henry talked about that, and it's something that I don't think gets enough press. And it's like in 2002, I was fortunate enough to spend some time in Salt Lake City for the Olympics and get to see the opening ceremony, and it was great to have the 80 team there, or most of the 80 team, to light the cauldron. I just felt, being a hockey geek and being a former Minnesotan, then the 60 team should have joined them at the lighting because of that. And Dick Meredith put it in perspective for me. And he goes, "Doug, you're not normal. You're a little different." And most of the people that would watch or would have watched or listened to us play in 1960 are either so old they forgot about it or they're not with us anymore.
Well, the team in '60, they didn't have any fanfare when they're like the forgotten gold. I mean, they just they came back. John Masich would tell me, yeah, we came back and we just went to work the next day. It's no big deal. It's just times are different. But that was a great team. They had a good mix of Eastern guys and Western guys, and that was. I've met a lot of those people as quality people, and that was a great. That's our. Of course, we've never won a gold without a player from Evelyn on it. So in the men's side, so we better start developing some more Evelynsians if we want to win again, I guess.
I think so, and then like the guys up in War Road, there's been a few gold medal guys from there, and there was a hockey game that maybe you could settle some controversy with us. There's a guy that we just did a broadcast, Henry Boucher, and he says the goal was scored with plenty of time left on the clock, and he says your opinion on that might differ. Could you fill us in a little bit on that?
Well, I will agree. They called it a goal, so it counts, and he got to go to the state tournament, and we didn't. But no, it didn't go in before the clock ran out. No chance.
Was there some hometown ruling on that? But that was down in, was it in Hibbing that the game was at?
The game was in Hibbing. No, it was really close. I don't think anyone knows for sure if it was in on time or not. There's no way of knowing back in those days. You got to laugh now. You get it on TV now. They get cameras. They got the clock hooked up. Back in those days, you had the guy turning on the light manually for a goal, but it wasn't hooked up to the clock or anything. So, I mean, it could have been 10 minutes late. You could still turn on the light. So Henry always said, well, the light went on, so it had to be good. But that's not.
So, gentlemen,
but I have to tell you something. That was a tough pill to swallow. It was no time left on the clock at the end of the second overtime. And so Henry and the War Road team went to the state tournament. And we went crying in our rooms, That's the way it goes.
the bounce of the puck.
Actually, it's a good thing because the people in Minnesota got to see Henry play, and that that in itself is probably a great thing because he's certainly probably one of the best that's ever played in that high school state tournament, if not the best. So it's in that respect, the fans got what they deserve to see. So it's better.
Marty, did you want to jump in and give us the scoop on the '72 Olympics and why the Canadians didn't win?
Yeah, definitely, Doug. You're right, and that I did not know. So let me read from Wikipedia. For the first time since the ice hockey was introduced to the Olympic Games in 1920, Canada did not send a team to the 1972 Olympics after our Canadian Minister of Health and Welfare, John Munro, announced the withdrawal of the team from all international competitions in response to the International Ice Hockey Federation opposition to allowing professional players at international competitions. Canadian officials were frustrated that their best players competing in the National Hockey League were prevented from playing, while the Soviet players who were employees of the industrial and military organizations that fielded amateur teams were allowed to compete. So that's the reason why Canada didn't put a team in.
I think they knew they were going to lose to the U.S. and they just figured, let's not go get embarrassed by that poor little country south of here who doesn't know that much about hockey.
You know what? I this is a platform that we have to put this out here, due to the fact of our guest Doug Palazzari and the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. And Doug Peters, because you are from the state of where that is housed, I will definitely, when the borders open, I'm coming south, you're coming north, make sure you bring your hockey equipment. I'll either let you play forward or defense, whatever position you want, and we're going to settle this once and for all. Who has the hands, who has the wheels, and who really deserves what they deserve. And Doug Palazzari,
I'll be the referee. I'll be the referee.
Exactly.
I'm going to have a pinch player for me to take my role on, and I'm going to get another Doug P. that can assume my role. And I think we might look about the same if I doctor myself up and get rid of my beard. I think I can make you resemble me there, Doug. So I think your skills will supersede mine by a whole bunch. And while we're on that topic, I noticed with your hockey career that you jumped straight from Colorado College into the NHL and potted 14 goals in your first season. How big of a jump was that, and what kind of challenges did you face going straight into the NHL after your college career?
Well, you don't really know what to expect. That's for sure. But it's just hockey. I guess the difference was, back in those days, the game was a little less civilized than it is today. I remember the very first exhibition game. I was up with the big club right at the beginning of camp, and the first exhibition game was against Detroit. We played up in Michigan somewhere, not in Detroit, and the first period there were 2 bench clearing brawls in the first period of an exhibition game. And I'm saying, well, are we going to play any hockey here tonight? What's going on? I mean, that's just what it was like.
That's our saying here, Doug. Our saying up here in Canada is we went to a fight and a hockey game broke out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the way it was back then. It was pretty strange. Now I watched a game yesterday with Philadelphia and the Islanders, and you watch the game, and it was just a great game. I mean, Islanders came back from 3 goals, tied it late, and losing overtime. But I mean, if you watch the hockey, it's so good. I mean, talented, fast, and a great product. It's so different from every era is different. But I think the NHL game is better than it's ever been. And one of the rules, I think, when they got rid of the red line for the 2-line pass, that really changed, opened up the game, and it's pretty exciting to watch the playoffs, that's for sure. But you can't. But for me, that first year, I had a real good rookie year. I had really great teammates. It was a lot of fun playing with the Gary Younger and the Plager boys. They're 2 of the most fierce competitors I think I've ever seen in my life. They were great. I love those guys. That's no doubt.
Was Glenn Hall still down there with the Blues at that time, or was he already retired?
He was working with them. He wasn't. He had retired playing, but you had Eddie Johnstone. Remember?
Yeah.
Eddie?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Nobody knew EJ. Nobody knew how old he really was. He wouldn't tell him. Him and John Davidson were the goalies that year. Glenn was working for the Blues in the capacity in the office. He's a good guy too. They're all great guys.
Back in the day when they could have a older, shorter goalie, I've got some footage of Gump Worsley that I was given by Wally Shaver, and it was old footage of the North Stars back. They played at the Odd in Buffalo. There's some of that. There's some of it at the Met Center. There's actually some footage of my dad, and my dad didn't even recognize himself, where he was giving award. He was the guy giving the trophy to the guy that gave the trophy to the players at the end of the year for the team trophies. And Gump Worsley was there, and he actually had to reach his arm up to grab a hold of the crossbar because he wasn't that tall, where his arm could just hang. Different from where it is today, where these guys are. Ben Bishop is a 6'7" or 6'8" monster, and
they keep getting bigger all the time, don't they? These goalies, I don't know where you find a place to shoot, where they cover a lot of that net. They're big guys. It's amazing.
That they are. One thing I want to touch on with the Islanders, you've got the grandson of Billy Christian on that team, Brock Nelson, and what a player he's turned into. Yeah,
he's a great player. Warroad has picked up some really good players over the years, haven't they? They've developed some great ones. Henry's real proud of his hometown, and rightfully so. Great hockey city.
Do they do any drafting up there to get the kids from the neighbors? The battle between the Hatfields and the McCoys with Roseau and Warroad, is that stuff true, or is it just rumors that if you're really good, you might find yourself or you have a kid that's really good at hockey, you might find yourself getting a job at Marvin Windows over in War Road.
Well, that stuff used to go on up there, but I don't know. I don't think it still does. There was talk of that. We didn't deal with that here in Evelyn, Virginia. Nobody dared change schools. But,
well, that's good.
But the gig is now, the student population up here is less and less all the time. People don't have. In our family, we had 8 kids, and that wasn't a lot. There was some with 12, 13. So you had a lot of kids around. But today, the population is down. There aren't as many kids. So, the schools are combining. Evelyn and Virginia and Gilbert are all going to be one school here in the next 2 years. So, times change. But I don't know how War Road keeps doing it. I just don't know. But they do develop some great players up there.
Doug, who are some of your hockey heroes from either when you were a kid or who you got to play against in all your hockey career?
Well, our heroes when we were growing up, they were all on the Hippodrome wall. We had guys that NHL guys, college guys, real Olympians and national team players. Those were the guys we looked up to. And then as you get older, for me, I truly appreciate all the great players from all the different eras of the game, from way back to today. And you just see everybody keep getting better and better. But and you can never pick the best ever. I know that. You can look at all the great players from all the different countries. But I had one favorite player, and I still do. The player I like the best is Bobby Orr. If I had to say hero, not hero, but the one my favorite player, because I just couldn't believe how good he was, winning league scoring championships with defensemen, and just, he just was an incredible player. But he also, to me, he just revolutionized the whole position, the position of defenseman. He changed the game, and so he's my favorite. You can't argue with like Wayne Gretzky. Look what he did. There's so many like that. Mario Lemieux. How would you like to be a goalie with Mario Lemieux coming down on you one-on-one? There's so many great players, and different eras, but still my favorite. I think if you put Bobby Orr on the ice with any player, no one would get the puck from him. It's simple. Just 2 people, you'd never get it.
You brought up, well, and he was a great player, and I was lucky enough to get to see him. I was also lucky enough to get to see him when he finished his career, which was kind of sacrilege, but as a Chicago Blackhawk, he played a game against the North Stars. You talk about Wayne Gretzky a bit. We like to think that the Zamboni Company is almost as famous as what came out of Brantford. We have a plant up in Brantford, Ontario, and we like to think we're almost as famous as Wayne Gretzky, the other important piece that's come out of Brantford, Ontario. Onto the topic of Zamboni machines. Could you maybe give us a little verbal tour of your facility, and then we can talk about the Zamboni machine that is in the hall. So what are some of the displays that people could take a look at the hall, and what are some of your favorite displays?
Well, it starts outside in the parking lot. You park your car, you look on their wall. When I got here, the north wall, it's a big, long thing, and nothing on it. I said, well, we got to do something about that. So put up a big banner, a mural of the 1996. It was a tribute to the 1996 World Cup of Hockey champion U.S. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I think that's the best American team that was ever assembled. And you can look at 80. That's the greatest accomplishment in American hockey, and it always will be. It's the biggest moment and this and that. But that was a miracle, and it took a miracle. In '96, this team, the finals was the best of 3 series, and of course it was against our arch rival Canada, who had an unbelievable team, a great team. We lost the first game. It was best of 3. We lost the first game in the United States, and then we had to go up and play the last 2 games in Montreal, and we managed to win both games and win the World Cup. And to me, that was just a defining moment for American hockey, because it wasn't a miracle. It was a really, really good team. And most of that team, the team is inducted into the Hall here, but most of the players on that team are also individually inducted. So I put up a banner there with Chelios. I picked some of my favorites. I could have picked the whole team, but that's all I would fit. And I got Chelios and Hall and Modano and Housley and Richter and Roenick up there, and it's a tribute to the '96 team. And then this year, now in the virus time here, we finally got our 6th woman inducted last year into the Hall of Fame, and I wanted to save that spot. Now I have a new 50-foot long banner with Darwitz and Wendell and Ruggiero and Granato and Baiditz and Curley, and they're up on the wall. So I know all these athletes from my time at USA Hockey and training, and these women I call them the original 6, and they are not just great athletes, but I know what they went through to play hockey and get to where they were, and they're just high quality character people who have given a lot to women's hockey. Most of them started playing, of course, with the boys because there weren't the girls' leagues, and they had a lot to do, pioneering women's hockey and getting it to where it is today, where they have their own teams and leagues and such. So we're real happy to be able to recognize them in a meaningful manner. So we have those 2 up there, and they're beautiful. Now you walk in the front door, you'll see a greeting desk and admissions desk, and we have a nice little gift shop downstairs there where you can buy a lot of clothing items and different hockey puck or banners, different things we have. It's a nice little gift shop. Out to the side, we have a 96-seat theater where you can go in and watch some films we have offered. There's about 12 to 15 things. We have documentary on the '80 team. I like the 1980 gold medal game against Finland. Everyone forgets, after they beat the Russians to win the gold, they had to beat Finland. And of course, that Finnish game, they were behind for most of it before they came back to win. So that people kind of forget that. You can watch the 1960 championship game in Squaw Valley. The television coverage was a little different in those days, but I enjoy watching that. I see all the old timers, and it's pretty cool. We've got the 2018 women's gold game for the U.S. as well, and a few other, some pretty neat stuff if you're into wanting to see some old games. Then you walk up into our main hall, and right in front of you, there's Herbie Sterny and I. We have a tribute to Herb and the '80 team on the main floor there, and not just his Olympic stuff, but some of his University of Minnesota. The family had donated some things here for the hall. And then right there, when you come up also, we have that beautiful Zamboni number 4, the one that the Ice Capades used. Doug, you might want to get a little more on the history of that as well, but this was this model, the 4th one made. It's early 50s, and the cool thing is people just love that. They really do. It's a really cool machine, and we have these flyers that go with it that telling the story of Frank Zamboni and the company, and it's pretty interesting. And people take them because they got to print them up all the time. I'm tired of that, actually. But so Doug, do you want to talk any more about that machine? I mean, it is a cool machine.
Yeah,
it's not ever going anywhere while we're alive, right?
No, I think it would take too much work to get it out of the building, and I don't know where it could be displayed.
I don't know how they got it in there.
Yeah, I don't either, and I think that it's something that I don't know if it would be able to be seen more prominently by more people in another location, and it's something that it's brings back fond memories for Richard Zamboni, who's son of the founder. But it's literally a one of a kind, and that machine was sold to the Ice Capades, and then it was in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and I believe that it was destroyed in a fire, and there was a restoration process. And I don't know, I'd have to go back and dig through the files to see what the process was as to whether somebody from the hall reached out to us and asked about providing a machine, or what the story is. It truly, I've seen it a few times up there, and it was prominently mentioned in a old newsletter that the company used to do, criminy back probably into the 70s. So it is something, and we're glad that it gets the recognition. And I know that when people go see that machine, that it's something that they truly enjoy seeing that machine. So
there's absolutely no doubt about that. Everybody looks at that and loves it. You know, I mean, that's a big thing. It's a good thing. Yeah. No doubt. So anyway, as we go through here on that floor, then we have a lot of paintings, artwork. I don't know if you're aware of Terrence Fogarty. He does a lot of hockey stuff for artists here in Minnesota, and we've got some real nice pieces from him. There's a display on the fire puck. Do you remember the fire puck? When they went to television, they were trying to figure out a puck that they could see.
The glow, the tracker that they had that in the All-Star game in Boston. I don't even know how many years ago that was. So
it was the 60s, I think. Yeah, it didn't fly. The goalies didn't like it, and the puck didn't handle right either. So they tried it in a few All-Star games, minor league All-Star games in a few places, but it didn't catch on. So anyway, we have that there. You've probably never seen one of those, but it's here. And then we have in the corner there, we have a Gretzky Award. I don't know if you're aware of that, and that's given to international citizen who has helped with the growth of hockey in the United States. And Wayne is named after him, and he was the first recipient. It's not given every year. There's been like 10 so far, I think, since '99. There's another nice Howe family, Gordie Howe's family photo with the whole family was given the award one year, so that's kind of cool. We have some pop-ups of some of our recent inductees. I've got another ice machine there, a manual ice resurfacer from the hip in the 50s. You know, if you saw the old ones where you get on the wheel and you're pushing them down, no motors involved here. Then of course we have our Wall of Fame, and that, you know, we exist to honor those that, you know, get inducted into the hall and have done things for American hockey. And we have 147 inductees. That includes 4 teams. And so we have their plaques and bios on all of them on our Great Wall of Fame. We have a collection of skate blades, you know, mostly from the late 1800s and early 1900s, and it's really cool. You look at what people used to have to skate on and how they were, and what we have today is quite different. So people enjoy that a lot. They got an old Wasota skate sharpener from the 50s, and what else we have? I got Frank Brinsick exhibit with his Vezina and Calder trophy. Lefty Kern, we got his mask and glove from Sapporo, and you know, we have an exhibit on Evelyn. There's another one on Pat LaFontaine down there. Amputee hockey exhibit. I got the Mayasich jersey from the 60 Olympics down there. There's things from the 52, 60, 56, and 72 Olympics there. We have a wall showing USA hockey districts around the country, and above on the top we have the Mighty Ducks scoreboard. How's that? From the first movie, Mighty Ducks movie, the scoreboard here hangs in the hall. We've got jerseys of different high schools, colleges, pros going around the top. Then if you go up to our next level, we've got a Minnesota Wild display. Got Darcy, what the heck? I'm going blank here now. Hendrickson, who scored the first goal for the Wild when they came back to Minnesota. We've got Coast Guard cutter picture. You probably never heard of the Coast Guard cutters, have you?
I have not. I have not.
Yeah, they were a team. In fact, 5 of the inductees here played on that team, including Brimsick and Mariucci and offhand I can't remember. Hub Nelson. They were all these guys. They were in the Coast Guard. They had a hockey team. They played NHL teams and minor pro teams. They were really good. But then people got mad because it was wartime and they didn't think they should be playing hockey. So they shut down the team. But I got a nice framed photo of that team. It's pretty good. And we have a Mariucci collection of framed photos. It's very interesting. A lot of neat people on there. One picture with him and Mike Caracas when they were playing with the Blackhawks with Rocket Richard. I love that photo. There's a lot of artwork on this level. We got a jersey from Massachusetts, the University of Minnesota. The display on the old WCHA College League, back in the day when different than today. There's a lot of there's a video there on some of our recent inductees. We've got bunches of artwork on that area. Then you go to the top floor and there's interactive areas, bubble hockey and where you can shoot another place you can shoot pucks for target shooting, and we have another place with radar so you can see how hard you can shoot it. Unfortunately, those interactive areas are closed temporarily now with the virus. We aren't able to do that, but that's a really popular thing here, especially with the kids. We have a high school section up there, different thing, college section. We've got the Hobie Award and the winners, and the Humanitarian Award winners, and the Patty Kazmaier Award winners. There's various trophies up. We have we have a video presentation with the U.S.-Russia game runs here 24/7. It's always on the 3rd floor. We've got a shack like you had in the outdoor hockey days with the stove and a heating shack, that we all did when we were kids. Got banners of all the NHL teams, some Olympic exhibits up there, and also we have a lot of women's hockey exhibits up there, some jerseys from some of the other countries that have been great in hockey. We have quite a few national team plaques. We've got a thing on the old North Stars and their jersey. We've got a place for Willie O'Ree and things on the current Americans in the NHL. We update every year, and we have a display on the World Hockey Association, the WHA, which is big. So we've got a display on Paul Stewart up there, the referee, the hockey player turned referee. So I mean, there's lots to see here. There really is, and people really enjoy the visit, I think.
It sounds like you have something for everyone, including a plaque of our founder, Frank Zamboni. The U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame honored Mr. Zamboni by putting him in the hall in the class of 2009.
He's up on the Great Wall. You bet he is.
And
absolutely.
I was fortunate enough to have the Zamboni family include me as part of that awards presentation out in Boston. It was incredible. Richard Zamboni is very humbled to be able to take part of that, and we're hoping, while he's still with us, that the Hockey Hall of Fame up in Toronto will figure it out and put him in the hall, because we might be a little bit biased, Doug, but we believe that there isn't anybody who changed the game more so. He might be the Bobby Orr of what he did for the game by creating the ice resurfacer. And we really are hoping that the hall up in Toronto will take it upon themselves and get him inducted into that hall. And we thank you and the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame for getting it right and putting Frank into the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame.
If we didn't have that machine, I don't know how they'd play hockey nowadays. I mean, it's amazing.
Doug, unless, and I'm really quite confident that there's not going to be a category for Zamboni machine salespeople. So Marty might be with his talents Marty might be able to get into the hall, but the only way I'm going to get into the hall, the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, is by purchasing a ticket. What is the nomination process, and how does the induction process work for the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame?
Well, USA Hockey handles the selection and the ceremony. So anyone can nominate someone for induction by going to the USA Hockey site and getting the paperwork. There's a national committee that they have formed that's been in place for quite some time that analyzes all the nominations and makes a decision of who gets involved or who gets inducted. But as I said, anyone can nominate whoever they feel that is worthy, and then the committee meets and decides who they're going to induct and who they're not. And so that's, like I said, that's all run through USA Hockey.
That's great. How can people that are listening, and I'd like to say we have 1 million listeners, but if somebody wanted to make a donation or participate in some of the fundraisers, how do they go about doing that? How do they get more information about the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame?
Well, of course, you can go to our website, ushockeyhall.com, find out a lot about us. But of course, we're a nonprofit and we accept donations, and we have a number of people that do donate money to us, some annually, some more often even. So as a nonprofit, in the museum business, you're not going to make it all at the door. It's impossible. So you have to have people willing to support you and believe in the cause. And I think we do a good job here of presenting a nice museum. So, but anyone, you mentioned earlier, I never did answer that question. In terms of donating items and that, there are, I get calls all the time. People, would you be interested in this? Would you be interested in that? And we get a lot of really neat things that way. So people do have things of value that are just sitting in their attic, and they want to, we're a good place to put it if it's hockey, if it's American hockey.
Well, if you're interested, Doug, you let me know. I'm not going to relinquish it, but I can tell my kids or my wife that if I drop dead tomorrow, that the puck from the 2002 games, the Russian game where USA, it's the game-winning goal puck. If you guys are interested in that, you let me know, and
we would take that in a minute.
We
would take that in a minute, of course.
All right. Well, I will put a piece of tape on it, as my dad's wife did with a lot of things, that as to where it's going to go. Doug, it's been a treat. Do you have any other stories that you want to share with us about USA Hockey, about you growing up in the great hockey town of Evelyn? Isn't there a large hockey stick out front of the U.S. Hockey Hall? The largest stick in the world?
The world's largest one-piece hockey stick is downtown Evelyn. It's in downtown Evelyn. And they put a plaza there now. They've got some statues, Mariucci and Brimsick right now. And they've got a whole wall with it's pretty nice. But this big hockey stick, yes. World's largest one piece.
And there has been out in Vancouver Island, out in Duncan, British Columbia, that arena still says that is the largest hockey stick in the world. But that being said, I do have a question for you, Doug.
Yeah, but it's not one piece.
Oh, see, they never told me that.
Yeah, that's the fact, Jack.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm definitely going back to them to call them on it. So Mr. Palazzari, I have to ask you a question. It's been since 1993 that the Stanley Cup stayed on north of the 49th parallel, if you will, with a Canadian NHL hockey team. My question is, the Stanley Cup that Philip Pritchard presents to the Cup winners every year, has that Cup had the opportunity to be in your home, in your Hockey Hall of Fame for the off season, if you will, or do you have a replica of it?
No, I wish we had a replica of it. That would be huge here. They've had it here a couple of times in the past for different events, but not since I've been here. We haven't. It was we were lucky it got up here, but we didn't bring it to the hall just a few years ago when Niskanen and Pittsburgh won the Stanley Cup. It was in Virginia, so they did it at the ice rink there because you could accommodate. There were people just lined up wanting to see the thing, so it was good. It's been up here at the hall a few times in the past, but not recently. I know Mr. Pritchard too. He's a good guy, by the way. Phil's a great guy. He does a good job with that cup, man.
Well, I know I'm going to speak for what Doug will want to say, but I'll take the words right out of his mouth. I think there's enough support to justify having that cup in your Hockey Hall of Fame, the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, due to the fact it's been 17 years south of the border that a team has won it. So I'm sure that's what Doug was going to go there, but
you got bad math there, Marty. It's 27 years since 1993, and I was just going to say that there's a better chance of the cup being on display in Eveleth than it does in a parade in Toronto. But you know what can I say?
You guys are tough. You guys are tough. Toronto's coming on. They got a pretty good team there. They got a lot of talent.
Their chant is 1967, Doug, because that's the last time the cup graced the streets of Yonge Street, if that's the proper pronunciation, other than on its way back into the hall.
You know, it's sad because, you know, it's a great hockey town. I mean, they support their team better, as well as anybody, or better. You know, they get one of these years it'll come to.
If you could be a fly on the wall when I travel with this guy, Mr. Palazzari, it's sometimes it is hilarious. There's restaurants that I think would rather see us not come into the restaurant and take our stuff outside. But anyways, I'll send it back to you, Doug, to bring it to a close.
Great.
Okay.
Doug,
well, I appreciate being with you guys today.
Oh, Doug, I want to thank you very much. It was an honor, a true honor for me to spend time with you, to talk hockey. And one of these days, I'm going to get up to Eveleth and we'll be able to have more time. And you'll be wishing that I would just go away and have it be a shorter session than what today was. But it was an honor to hear about the hall. Please, of our listeners out there, it's a great institution. Please consider sending a donation to the organization to help support hockey. Please go up and visit Eveleth, Minnesota. It's a great community, lots of hockey history, lots of things that you can see up there, including the hall and Zamboni number 4, which is a true one-of-a-kind machine, and Frank Zamboni on the wall for the Hall of Fame. Plug to you, Mr. Pritchard. Please see about getting Mr. Zamboni on the hall up in Toronto. We want to thank everyone for listening in to another episode of Ask the Zamboni Experts podcast. Have a question for one of our experts or an idea for a future episode, please email your questions or request to info@zamboni.com. For more info and additional podcast episodes, please visit zamboni.com/podcast or search Ask the Zamboni Experts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Thank you, Doug Palazzari. Thank you, Marty Elliott. This is Doug Peters wishing you a nice day.